telling me now. Blah, 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 blah. Doing it on video. No, and it will cut off. Yeah, that's what it'll do. Phone on my, I have a better camera phone, which is kind of, my connection is unstable. We are a minute in, and I don't see anybody popping in. Well, actually, no, I said I was going to give everybody about 10 minutes, but see anybody pop in, so we'll just uploading video. To concern, but we're starting a little. That's that. I just put that in the wrong one. 25th, which is today. Oh, hello, hello. I'm giving couple people a few more minutes. So 5 should be going right about now. So let's get started. Right. So this is once again this is the nighttime reading hour, and I want to welcome everybody to tonight's. Starting up the recording. Come on. There we go. Starting up the recording for my podcast by Sir Conan Doyle. And we're going to be starting at chapter 4. And usually everybody here and see how we're doing and see how everybody's hearing everything. So there we go. We got about 30 seconds more. So, wow, that's really enough. Okay. This is chapter 4. Sir Henry Baskerville. Okay, so just finished talking about the boots that he'd mislaid or had been stolen. And now, gentlemen, said the baronet with decision, Thomas, and gave me a full account of what we are all driving at. Could not do better than to tell your story as you told it to us. Thus, and presented the whole case as he had done upon the morning before. But as to my uncle's death, well, it's mine. And now there's this affair of a letter to me at the hotel. I suppose that fits into its place. It seems to show that someone knows more than we do about what goes on upon the moor, since they warn you of the danger. Or it may be that they wish, for their own purposes, to scare me away. Well, of course, that is possible also. I am very much indebted to you. Now have to decide, Sir Henry, is whether it is or is it not advisable for you to go to Baskerville Hall. Human beings. Well, that is what we have to find out. Whichever it is, my answer is fixed. There is no devil in hell, Mr. Holmes, and there is no man upon earth who can prevent me from going to the home of my own people. And you may take that to be my final answer. His dark brows knit together. It was evident that a fiery temper of the Baskervilles was time to think over all that you have told me. It's a big thing. Look here, Mr. Holmes. It's 11:30 now, and I am going back right away to my hotel. You and your friend, Dr. Watson, come round and lunch with us at 2. I'll be able to tell you more clearly then how this thing strikes me. Is that convenient to you, Watson? Perfect. Then you may expect us. Shall I have a cab called? I prefer to walk, for this affair has flurried me rather. I'll join you in a walk, with pleasure. His companions descend the stair and the bang of the front door. In an instant, Holmes had changed from the languid dreamer to the man of action. Your hat and boots, Watson, quick, not a moment to lose. He rushed into his room in his dressing gown, and was back again in a few seconds in a frock. We hurried together down the stairs and into the street. Dr. Mortimer and Baskervilles were still visible about 200 miles. Our friends are wise, for it is certainly a very fine morning for a walk. He quickened his pace, and we had decreased the distance which divided us by about half. Then, still keeping 100 yards behind, we followed into Oxford Street and so down Regent Street. Once our friends stopped and stared into a shop window, upon which Holmes did the same. The side of the street was now proceeding slowly onward again. At that instant I was aware of a bushy black beard and a pair of piercing eyes turned toward us through the side window of the cab. Instantly the door at the top flew up. Something was screamed madly off down Regent Street. Holmes looked eagerly round for another, but no empty one was in sight. Then he dashed in wild pursuit amid the stream of traffic, but the great, and already the cab was out of sight. There now, said Holmes bitterly, I will record this also and set it against my successes. Who was the man? I have not an idea. A spy? Well, it was evident. How else could it be known? You may have observed that I twice strolled over to the window while Miss Dr. Mortimer was reading his legends. Yes, I remember. I was looking out for loiterers in the streets. Saw none. We are dealing with his benevolent or malevolent agency, which is entering down their invisible attendants. So wily was he, not trusted himself upon foot, but he had availed himself of a cab, so that he could loiter behind or dash past them and so escape their notice. His method had the additional advantage that if they were to take a cab, he was all ready to follow them. It has, however, one obvious disadvantage. It puts him in the power of the cabman. Exactly. What a pity we did not get the number. My dear Watson, clumsy as I have been, you surely do not seriously imagine that I neglected to get the number. Number 2704 is our, but that is no use to us at the moment. I fail to see how you could have done more. On observing the cab, I should have instantly turned and walked toward a second cab and followed the first at a respectable distance. Or better still, have driven to the Northumberland Hotel and waited there. When our unknown had followed back the opportunity of playing his own game upon himself, and seeing where he made for. as it is by an indiscreet, extraordinary quickness and energy by our opponent. We betrayed ourselves and lost our man. We had been sauntering slowly down Regent Street during this conversation, and Dr. Mortimer, with his companion, had long vanished in front of us. "There is no object in our following them," said Holmes. "The shadow has departed and will not return. We must see what further cards we have in our hands, and play them with decision." "Could you swear to that man's face within the cab?" "I could swear only to the beard." "And so could I, from which I gather that in all probability it was a false one. A clever man upon so delicate an errand has no use for a beard save to conceal his features. Come in here, Watson." He turned into one of the district messenger offices, where he was warmly greeted by the manager. "Ah, Wilson, I see you have not forgotten the little case in which—" "I know, sir, indeed I have not." "You saved my good name, and perhaps my life." "My dear fellow, you exaggerate. I have some recollection, Wilson, that you had amongst your boys a lad named Cartwright, who showed some ability during the investigation." "Yes, sir, he's still with us." "Could you ring him up?" "Thank you. And I should be good now, gazing with great reverence at the famous detective." "Let me have the hotel directory," said Holmes. "Thank you. Now, Cartwright, there are the names of 23 hotels here, all in the immediate neighborhood of Charing Cross. Do you see?" "Yes, sir." "You will visit each of these in turn." "Yes, sir." "You will begin in each case by giving the outside porter 1 shilling. Here are 23 shillings." "Yes, sir." "You will tell him that you want to see the waste paper of yesterday. You will say that an important telegram was miscarried, and then you were looking for it. You understand?" "Yes, sir." "But what you are really looking for is the center page of the Times, with some holes in the copy of the Times. It is this page. You could easily recognize it, could you not? You will then learn in possibly 20 cases out of the 23 that the waste of the day has been burned or removed. In the 3 other cases you will be shown a heap of paper, and you will look for the page of the Times over in the case of emergencies. Let me have you by wire at Baker Street before evening. And now, Watson, it only remains number 2704, and then we will drop into one of the Bond Street picture galleries and fill in the time till we are due at the hotel." So that is the end of chapter 4. What's everybody doing now? Are you having connection issues? Because it's saying the connection is unstable, which is not terribly unusual since I'm upstairs rather than downstairs. Never. Okay. So I'm actually going to be cutting this a little bit short. It is very, very warm, and I'm having issues with connection, and my voice is about to start cutting out. So we will pick up next week, next Monday, chapter 5, which is 3 Broken Threads. Okay? So I hope everybody has a good evening, and I hope everybody stays safe, and thank you for popping in and listening, and thank you. Have a good night.